feel good. You know that I would now. I feel good.
good.
My dog feels good too. He's barking. Did you hear that?
Yeah.
So good. So good. I got you. All right. Yes.
Gizmo. Calm down.
It's okay, buddy. He gets excited when I get excited. So when we scored tonight, it was a lot of this. Yes. Well, that happened at least twice. All right. So welcome to the Straight Red Card. Yes, that was a grand opening of sorts. But you know what, Brett? It feels good to feel good about watching an entire U.S. game and feeling like, man,
this is what we were expecting.
I think Gregg might have fucking figured this out a little bit.
Verticality, I swear to God. That's all we needed.
That's all we needed. It's verticality, and that solved everything. Listen, I mean, we didn't score in the first half, but I felt good about the way we played in the first half.
I know we only had like 65% possession, but I swear to God, we had much more than that. And I went out to the bar to watch this game with a couple friends actually. One's a soccer fan, and one's a person who knows that soccer exists. You know.
One of those people.
We're sitting there watching the game, and he goes, it's like, hey, where do we sit in standings with Jamaica? And I'm like, well, we're like ranked 10th in the world, and Jamaica's like in the 60s or somewhere like that. I really didn't know.
57 or something.
He goes, like that, yeah, I definitely assumed that it seems like we've had the ball on our offensive half majority of the game. I mean, even somebody who wasn't paying attention was noticing that we were flat out dominating the game.
Right. I know. And same thing goes for my brother, my stepson, my mother, like the whole game. I got texts up the butthole while I was watching this game. And it's like, I'm giving really short, answers because I got to watch the game and they're distracting me. And it's, I get it, but it's my fault because I said, you got to watch this. And now they're watching it. And now they're texting me about it. But yeah, my mom was so funny tonight. She's like, why don't they have VAR? That's a red card. And I'm like, well, Mom,
you're referring to that. You're referring to the 22-second foul.
I'm referring to both fouls. And
Jesus Christ.
Yes. And I was telling her, Mom, they don't have VAR because like St. Kitts and Grenada and, all these small little island teams and other places, they don't have the equipment. They don't have the technology to do VAR. And if they can't do it, no one's going to be allowed to use it.
And they talked about with the octagonal, they talked about US, Canada, and Mexico were the only nations that had, the capability of doing VAR. So
that seems ridiculous. Costa Rica can afford it. So can Jamaica. I don't understand that. All those, okay. The Jamaican Federation is a fucking, firestorm, dumpster fire. I get it. But, isn't that also CONCACAF's job to at least give, some of these countries some of the funding to do the bare minimum for VAR, which takes about 5 or 6 cameras and a guy in a booth who can do replay. So that doesn't sound like that's $1 million proposition. It really doesn't. So in a way, my mom was right. She was right. And
they clearly have the cameras there. All it takes is just having a couple of FIFA officials sitting in a booth watching it over. Yeah. I can't imagine. It's all about the training is what it was, and certain nations didn't undergo the training for it.
Yeah.
So
and so I was a little distracted tonight, but I didn't miss much. But my mom was really into the game. She did mention, I don't know some of these players. Who the hell is Musa? I mean, my mom doesn't really have that thick of a German accent anymore. It just comes out on certain words. But she's like, Musa. I'm like, yeah, he plays for Valencia in Spain. I've never heard of this player. And that happened a few times tonight when Weah came in. She's like, I don't remember Weah. I'm like, Weah, yeah, plays in France for a little.
Sorry, your mom almost has like a gizmo sound to her voice.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Maybe I should just, every time I do my mom, I should just do gizmo. But I mean, that's kind of where I stole some of the accent from. But yeah, I mean, she's like, De La Torre? Who's De La Torre? I'm like, oh yeah, he plays in another. So anyhow, it was really that all night that. And then, of course, every time anything good or bad happened, my mom, and then my brother's like texting me ridiculous shit. Like, what the fuck's wrong with McKenny's hair? Do you think his stylist fucked up with that poof on the side? I'm like, dude, come on.
He's taking some form of fashion content from Zardis. Except for Zardis's hair comes out like, actual white, whereas McKinney's was kind of like a yellowish.
I think it's more of a Pogba thing, actually.
Maybe
that's what came to my mind. But it looked like an error, what it looked like to me. And
it almost looks like somebody. It was almost like a prank done. It's like he was asleep and his roommate for the night
poured bleach on his hair.
Yeah, started like dyeing just a little bit of his hair. And who wakes up in the morning is like, what the fuck happened?
We'll make it look like he's wearing this light tan little pom-pom on the front of his head. Hey, Kent McKenny, you do you, brother, but you might want to rethink that one. It looked weird. The stripe that Zardis is at least consistent. It's like my mom watches that. That's Skunkhead.
Yeah. Done.
She says, oh, Skunkhead's coming on. Yeah, Skunkhead's coming on. That's his name is Zardis, Mom. Zardis.
Well, I mean, that's the reason why he does, and that's the reason why Yedlin used to do it, was so that grandparents could spot them on the field,
Yep, exactly.
I feel like McKinney's was sort of like, yeah, I'll do it. Sure, let's just do a little bit, so that way when I buzz my hair off, when I go back to Turin, that it'll be no longer in existence,
Oh, you think he's doing a full buzz after this?
I did. The fact that he went so I personally think it was kind of half-assed into the dying aspect. That it could be. And this an odd thing to talk about this game with all the positives that occurred, but I think he's going to buzz it down.
All right.
I think it's going to be pretty short term.
The other thing that happened tonight, since people are criticizing you for your pronunciation of Mallorca, is that Ian Dark totally fucked up Eupen. I mean, he fucked the name up of that team so bad. I mean, so don't come at us, just us. Go at Ian too, because he couldn't pronounce Eupen. He pronounced it Eupen, and it's not Eupen, folks. It's Eupen. Now, by the way, that's one of the teams that the Jamaican player played at. But I just found it funny. I'm like, oh my God, he just totally does not know how to pronounce that word. And anyhow, it was funny. But there were a lot of things that were great tonight. And I think let's just start on fucking positives that maybe Berhalter figured out. Like right off the bat, you're like, Moose is starting?
Yeah.
Really?
Let's just talk about the roster as a whole. I mean, quite frankly, there were a couple of minor changes from what we said should start.
Yeah. Zimmerman.
But I mean, Zimmerman over Richards or McKenzie. Okay, I mean, you're flipping a coin at that point.
I didn't see it coming, though. I didn't
either. Well, of course we didn't, because he wasn't included until like the 24th hour prior.
I know, but even if he was called up and I looked at his name, I said he's not. I was thinking he's not starting. I thought it would be McKenzie, honestly.
Sure. No, okay. I mean, I agree on that too, and I think I even said Richards at some point. I definitely, again, would not have assumed that Zimmerman would have been included, but. Again, he came out. He played well.
Well, what Zimmerman compared to McKenzie and Richards? What's Zimmerman's biggest attribute? It's physicality. That's what it is. And I think he knew that when they had the big boy up top for Jamaica, was it Nicholson? I think that basically Gregg made the right decision. I need a big boy back there. I mean, Richards kind of a skinny stick. McKenzie's not as physical as Zimmerman. He wanted one of the two center backs to be a big boy, physical guy who could handle, the big boys, the reggae boys, the big reggae boys up top. So it was a good decision. I don't even have any complaints about it. It worked out.
Yeah. I think Berhalter gambled and assumed that Jamaica was probably going to come out and play very similar to how Canada and El Salvador played against us. We talked about this prior. And yeah, they sat back. And mind you, they sat back because we took the game to them. That's a big difference, I guess. But yeah, they absolutely played on the counter. They had a couple of our opportunities on the counter, but our defense held their own. They did well. I thought Zimmerman, again, when it came to those three, when it comes to quality, I mean, I'm sitting there going, it's like almost a flip of a coin. There's definitely, I think Richards has definitely a higher ceiling than, say, Zimmerman, but for different purposes.
Yeah, I think Richards needs to put on a little bit more meat if he wants to play against, some big boys like Jamaica has up top. Yeah. But, no, I just don't. I listen.
Plays against big boys and physical boys every week, and this is weird saying boys, but he plays against he's in a very physical and a league as a whole.
I get it. No.
Okay, it's a bit different, but
no, I think CONCACAF is way more physical than the Bundesliga. I'm honest. I'm just saying it right now. I think people get away with a lot more pushing, shoving, hitting people in the mouth, kicking people in CONCACAF than you get away with.
That has less to do with the physicality of the teams and more of the shittiness of the refs.
The referees were not good tonight. They were not good,
dude. That foul on Areola in the first 22 seconds, the ref wasn't even going to give a card. He had to go talk to the side official.
Yeah, he was nervous.
And then he gave a yellow card. And so we're like, because he wasn't going to give the card, and I'm like, you have to at least give that a card. I mean, that was a red card worthy. He was right. In. He was in. Yep. There was nobody behind him. He was in. That was going to be a goal scoring opportunity that he got called back on a foul. That should have been a red card. Any other time throughout the game, that would have been a red card. But the fact that it was 22 seconds into the game worked against us in that point. But he needed to give him at least a yellow. And the fact that he had to go talk to the side official and get the yellow then was ridiculous.
Was that Lawrence making that foul on Areola? I think it was Lawrence.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Lawrence should have known better, and he should have just let Areola shoot it.
It's funny. I made that similar comment. I go, the funny thing is if you would have let him go, Areola probably would have just put it wide.
Yeah, he would have missed it. Hey, that's not an offense to Areola, who worked his ass off tonight.
He had a great game, I thought.
But if I'm doing the math, I'm going, yeah, he's probably going to miss.
I'm just going off of his Gold Cup performances. He had a couple opportunities where he should have put a goal away, and he put him wide. Or
I mean, just put a little shoulder into him, he will miss it. So you just give him a little shoulder instead of fouling him. You know,
you didn't need to pull him back.
Yeah. So we did the Eupen thing. That was a mispronunciation. That makes you and I both feel better for, whenever we fuck up a pronunciation.
I honestly don't care because I know I'll always fuck up a pronunciation. I just assume that if I have to name something that's not an American team or even an American name, that I'm guaranteeing I'm going to fuck it up.
Dude, I just really learned to say Ferenc Vacaros not long ago. And that took a while. And that's the team Henry Wingo plays for. Okay, but outside of the cards, which should have come and were given, but one of them should have been a red, I think. Maybe two of them. And but then the score would have been outrageously even worse for Jamaica, I think, if they're playing with 9. But I thought
so though, if you're gonna do something that warrants a red card, then you deserve the red card.
Yeah.
And I know it's 22 seconds into the game on that particular foul. That would have been a harsh red, but I mean, it was a red card worthy foul.
I don't think that you give a rookie referee his first game in the CONCACAF final, octagon. I think you get him prepped by giving him some more games prior.
A bunch of qualifiers prior to this, yeah.
Yeah, in the lower areas of CONCACAF, but maybe he has had those, but they did see he was a rookie referee, and I'm like, is he really? Really?
He let shit play. I'm fine with that aspect. I'm just like that was an easy call.
Yeah.
And again, if you don't want to hand out a red card in the first 22 seconds, I understand that. It was a foul, and it could have easily been a red card at any point in the game. But at least dish out that yellow immediately. There should not have been any hesitation whatsoever. Hand that yellow out and move on. But
yeah,
it is what it is.
Yeah, I think in the first half, we did great with possession but I thought the crossing was pretty bad. I think it was pretty mediocre. And or the crossing, I think Robinson had a really good chance to cross that in, and he just missed Areola completely with that ball. But that's not to say he had a bad game. I just thought we got better in the second half because the crosses were more penetrating, verticality. So the other thing that's interesting is on that foul, before we leave the Aronson foul. I can't remember who the defender was. He did get a little bit of the ball. So that's the yellow for me, not a red. He got the ball, but I guess it's Casey Keller was screaming. That would have been
Lowe, because Lowe's the only other one who had a yellow card.
I think Casey Keller said, "Oh, the ref figured out that he actually got the ball and felt bad about calling a penalty. So when he came back, he had no choice but to give him a yellow just to save face for calling that a penalty." I don't think that second one is a penalty. People are going to disagree with me. I don't think Aronson was fouled.
When we were sitting there at the bar watching it, and I go, he blew the foul, and I go, I can't believe he just called that. I swear to God, he got ball. And then watching the replay, there was a point where maybe Aronson got to the ball first a little bit, and then but the defender also got to the ball before going through Aronson.
On the tackle, I don't think he got the ball.
Yeah, it wasn't a dirty tackle. He didn't follow through behind him and scissor him by any means. He got to the ball first and then ended up going through Aronson. That's a tackle.
and yeah, I mean, Aronson had no choice but to leap out of what would have been a scissor eventually, and fall to the ground.
Sure.
But I don't think there was even any major contact made. So I don't know if that were my team. I question
the foul. Obviously, if I'm questioning the foul, let alone any form of yellow that made it progress with it.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that all turned out okay, and I'm not going to complain about it. Did you see the whole watering the field issue at halftime? They're not watering the field enough. The American players were complaining to the facility, "Hey, water the fuck out of that field. This field is too dry."
Watching the Salvador and Panama game, it looks like Salvador is up 1-0 on Panama right now, or El Salvador, I'm going to say this. But their field is so waterlogged, they'll be sprinting with the ball, and then it'll hit a puddle, and the ball will just come to a complete stop, and then they'll be like 10 yards past it before they realize it.
Exactly.
So maybe we don't water the field that much, guys.
So I know. So when you played high school soccer, Brett, did you have to play on the football field with weird lines on it and shit?
My senior year, yes.
Yeah, so did I. So I played on Fort Knox High School's football field, and they widened it and, all that jazz. But one thing it certainly was, it was a fucking football field. It was all fucking fucked up down the middle, and it was dry as a motherfucker. I don't know why that's such a bad thing, but now we're getting into like super minutia. We're getting into molecules at this point, in this discussion about the field. And okay, maybe a faster field with water on it helps us, but depending on how much water you put on it, it might not help us. It could slow us down. So, I that was funny. They brought that up during the game. But at least a notable point. I think the big point of the game, the big thing that stands out more than anything else is just Berhalter making the right decisions with Musa. And then when he had to bring in players, he brought in Weah and he brought in De La Torre. He started Pepe and not Zardes. There was no Roldan. There was no Leggett because they weren't necessary. I'm sure he's saving them for the next game. I think this was the best game in a while. I can say Berhalter managed.
Yeah, no, I thought he did everything that was necessary in this match. Now, of course, he put the players in a position to succeed, and the players did well. Quite frankly,
simple.
Yeah, and quite frankly, when they started making the subs, and my friend who I went to the bar with and everything, he was like, "Oh, Pepe got a goal, so we got to sub him out." And it wasn't until the second goal that they subbed him out.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, they just didn't want to give Pepe the hat trick. And then Zardes missed a complete sitter.
Oh, my God.
Lord. Weah came in, did exactly what he does with Lil, and just lay it across the 6, and Zardes slept on it.
This is
here's the problem. Here's the problem. Weah didn't rip the shot across his face. That would have been different. Would have been goal. 100%.
Just fucking shoot it right at his fucking skull and let it bounce off his fucking skull into the goal on accident.
Oh my God. I was so pissed that he missed that opportunity. Pepe would have gotten a hat trick at that point. Would have gotten a hat trick.
I know. I am not here to denigrate Arriola and Zardes. I'm not. I'm just not, because because they're MLS players or whatever, because Miles Robinson played a hell of a game out there tonight. Mm-hmm. But the one player who worked his ass off, but then made some weird decisions, and it was Arriola. He worked his butt off. He got in good positions, and then sometimes he just made the limp dick pass instead of looking for something more. So I'm not picking on Arriola and then Zardes for missing that, and just generally working hard as well, but not getting an obvious goal, chance. It's just that it's odd that those two stood out for me as the worst players on the field for most of the game, outside of McKennie, who had a kind of a rough one as well, but generally was pretty good. Everybody was really good tonight. So when I say Arriola,
yes, thank you. I was going to say the exact same thing. Yeah. You're saying they had the worst games of the team, but everybody had a good game, I thought.
Yeah, everyone's above a B tonight. So, everyone.
Talking about Arriola, and you were mentioning how he did all the work, and then it's always the final thing. I at halftime, that was my comment. I'm like, I like everything I've seen from everybody so far, except for that final pass. We did all the steps getting to the location. It's just that final pass that creates a goal scoring opportunity wasn't there. We had a couple of chances, but they weren't great. But we're doing all the work. We're getting there. And I told him, I'm like, dude, it's going to come. It's just when it'll come, I don't know. But we did all the work to get to that point. Now, second half was a bit different. But that first half, it was just regardless of who it was, everybody did it too. They got into the right positions. And then when it came to that final pass, just wasn't there.
Right, exactly. And so Aronson, by the way, did a lot of shooting from the outside tonight, which is something you and I both complained about a fucking lot. And he just did it. He's like, fuck it. If I got a shot, I'm taking it from outside the box or just inside the box. That was nice to see, even though none of them were very good.
Yeah, and I brought up to the I was telling my friend who's not a big soccer person. I was telling him I don't know what point in our history we stopped just ripping shots from outside the box. At some point, we just ended up we got to get into the 6 and just hope to God that we just touch it. But
tap it in.
But at some point, it flipped. And we need to start taking those shots from the outside. He brought up the famous Wayne Gretzky quote. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
Of course you do.
And you know what? Aronson shots, the one he had one decent shot, and the rest of them weren't that great, but he still took them. And what happens when you take those shots outside the box is the defense realizes they just can't sit back. They've got to push up, and that opens up lanes for other players to check into.
Well, that was kind of an interesting, the tight shirt. By the way, when we say tight shirt, we're talking about Twellman. Tight shirt brought up, hey, it's really interesting, but Jamaica were playing this low block that was really hard for us to break in the first half, but then they came out all spread out in the second half. And I just said, well, dude, the manager is Whitmore. So yeah, they fucked that shit up. He fucks that shit up all the time. They probably could have continued to bother us more had they continued the low block, but they didn't. And they did spread it out. And I don't know if they were trying to get a lucky goal or, open up more of an attack. But it screwed them because it just made it a lot easier for us in the second half. They made it easier for us.
Well, and even when they got possession, when we went into the defensive mode, we crashed that ball from multiple sides. And Tyler Adams had a great defensive part of his game today. Yeah. He every time they started making their attack, their counter, he was always crashing that player. Just
did you see
applying the pressure, and then somebody else would come away with the ball, but he was the one that was always applying that pressure.
Did you see though how generally deep Adams played?
Sure.
He was like Zimmerman could have poked him with his dick if he had a hard on. He was so close most of the time. Even when we were halfway up in the other team side, like he really sat back and was like the last option. And it happened to be he was the last option. A lot of times we would pass, then we get it to him. So that was really interesting. But I think it's maybe a model to protect those back too, when our left back and right back are so advanced on the wings in when we're in possession. Like they're way up the fucking field. So Adams has no choice but to sit back and, share a fucking couch with the two center backs. But I'm glad because it worked. And Adams was always there most of the time he was there when we needed him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
So, all right. So the other thing that I think stood out for me as we go forward is that Pepe got to start every game for us at center forward right now because he's hot, and I don't want to see Zardes start in Panama. I want to keep seeing. Well, that was the one disappointment. The only disappointment I had tonight was that Areola was not subbed out for Hoppy. I really thought Hoppy would get a chance tonight, and he didn't. And that was slightly disappointing.
I mean, even 2-0 up, and you haven't really played Hoppy as a center striker by any means. Why not just give him the chance for the remaining 20 minutes or whatever it was?
I think we
just throw him in there, keep Zardes for Panama and Costa Rica, but just give him a chance, and that way you have an opportunity to see what he can provide up there.
Yeah, I mean, I was happy with the subs. So I was happy with De La Torre.
Sure.
Was happy. I'm fine with Moore. Fine. I'm really happy with
I was kind of surprised Moore got in all honesty.
Well, I think we saw Des go down with a knock.
No, I'm surprised he got over Yedlin.
I'm
just saying Yedlin's playing week in, week out. Moore hasn't seen the pitch since Gold Cup.
Maybe I think Yedlin might be being saved for the next game.
That's a good possibility. We're only talking about like 15 minutes or whatever it was.
Yeah, so if you're going to throw, let's just keep
Yedlin makes sense. Yeah,
totally healthy and just throw in more. This is the first time I ever thought in all the games I've watched Berhalter manage. Wow, he was really he was conservative. He was thoughtful. He kept it simple, stupid. And he just let the kids play. I mean, there was a system there. You could see it. You could see there were intentions, but it wasn't complex. It wasn't overly complex. He didn't overburden anybody in particular. It was nice. This is the first game I've watched where
they came out with energy. They came out with energy, and they kept pressing. And that's what you would have expected with a team that's supposed to be dominant. A team that on paper should squash Jamaica 9 times out of 10.
And maybe we'll see Hoppy in the next game.
One would hope.
We talked about Yedlin. I mean, there's some guys he might just be saving altogether for the next game. So we'll see how that goes. And I really, we're going to do down the line, we'll do our predictions for the next game. But, who's going to start against Panama. But I don't know. I just feel really good going into that game. I think this was one of the better.
Well, I feel
good.
We have it's the motivation of us winning. Just it's steamrolling us forward, and we're going into an away match against Panama, who is currently down 1-0 at halftime against El Salvador. So I mean, get it. It's definitely a good feeling to have moving forward here.
I get that. But even as we crushed Honduras in the second half, I thought to myself, God, I hope Gregg's figured something out here. And tonight I was like, Gregg just figured it out from the start. Like, that's nice. Like he didn't have to freak out and make any like radical adjustments. He just like, okay, we're going to keep doing we're doing.
Nothing that we did today is anything that we couldn't do with Reyna or Pulisic in there. So maybe the problem isn't necessarily the players keeping it simple, stupid, but maybe the coaching staff keeping the tactics simple, stupid.
That too.
Play direct, attack the opponent, pressure.
And a little bit of a fucking talk about don't play hero ball. Don't play hero ball. Play as a team, as a fluid team. So yes, it was Gregg's tactics, but it's also certain players take too many risks and too many chances in where the math isn't going to work. So, and I'm talking about Pulisic in particular, but tonight Dest did a better job. He did it a couple times where he's like, I'm just going to dribble through the whole fucking Jamaican team. Yeah. Fuck this team, but it didn't work out for him, did it? So, But other times when he was better with sharing the ball and making those touch passes, he got an assist tonight. That was better. That's team play. That's everybody having a role, right? Not one guy who has so much weight on his shoulders that he thinks he needs to do everything. And that's Pulisic. And he needs to take those weights off of his shoulder and just become a part and a core part of that team. And I don't think he's going to be captain next time he comes back. I think it's going to be Adams. I think Adams is earning that role.
I think Adams should be captain. It doesn't have to be the most talented player. Not saying that Adams isn't talented by any means, but I mean, I haven't seen anything on the pitch itself as a whole that warrants why Pulisic would take the captain band over Adams.
Dude, I don't see a whole lot in his physical responses to negative things that, for me, warrants him being the captain. Do you ever see Adams flinch? Never. You'll never see shit off of him except for, hey, motherfucker, you got to do this. Motherfucker, you got to do that. You don't ever see his head lowered, him being depressed or, disgusted. No, he's like, next play, let's go. And that's what you need as a captain. And I think there's a little bit of droopiness on Pulisic. That's just not what the captain needs to be. That's why there are a lot of players who were the best players in the past for the United States men's team weren't captains, because you got to be a leader. And that is exactly what Adams is. So,
yep.
All right. I think that's going to do it for the overview of the game. And we're going to move on to player ratings here in a moment. Make sure that you you subscribe, you share it with your sister's husband. If that's okay. I mean, make sure that's okay first, or your brother, sister. I don't really care. That might be a little more touchy, but just, make sure that you're sharing it, and then go visit the Patreon page too. It exists. We're working on it. We've got people there, so go there too. Donate $1, donate 50 cents. We don't really care. Donate a quarter, a dime. Anyhow,
like, subscribe, and comment.
I already said that, Brett.
I'm double downing.
You're double downing?
Sounds
like you're double downing in more ways than one. I can hear that Scotch glass and with the rocks rattling
what you
around.
About? No, I choked down a pumpkin ale.
Ugh,
oh, God. Why is everything pumpkin? Gross.
God, it's because it's October and everything becomes pumpkin flavored and pumpkin spiced, and you can get pumpkin dildos. It's just disgusting. Can we
drinking a smooth lager now? Sam Adams smooth lager, which is a fest beer, pronounced in the German way.
You mean the same way? Fest?
No, beer.
Oh, beer. Yeah. Well, that's pronounced the same way too. You're striking out. One more.
Oh my goodness. Sorry. Got sidetracked there. Canada almost had an own goal.
Oh, they did. Luckily, that bounced off the fucking top
crossbar.
Man, sometimes it's better to be luckier than be good. Yeah. All right. Well, as you can tell, we're watching the Mexico-Canadian game, Canada game. But yeah, so we'll be back with the next segment tomorrow. If you're watching this today, whatever that day is. Good night.
Or binge this on one day.